Good day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan Battle video. In this video we are going to be taking a look at the performance of the physical Super Saiyan Broly full power unit and how he does in the Cell Max event after his recent Extreme Z Awakening on DBZ Dokkan Battle Global. So he is a pretty good unit. I think his Extreme Z Awakening is pretty decent. Definitely think compared to Gogeta, it does struggle a little bit. It needs a little bit more of that good turn vibe than Gogeta's does, but that's okay. I think there are concerns around how well his EZA does perform. In AoE environments, it does decimate a lot of AoE content. So I think overall it's going to be interesting to see just how good Broly is. But for me, I do think it's still a pretty good EZA. So just to recap it super quickly, but disclaimer as always, the Cell Max event is an event that is best taken on with Evasion or with high levels of damage reduction or with Guard. There are advantageous characters for the event, so those characters will naturally perform better, with Broly not being one of them. The Cell Max event, generally speaking, starts off pretty easy and then goes into a very hard final stage. This usually gives issues to stacking units. But yes, Broly is neither of those, and he does not have damage reduction, he does not have evasion, and he's going to be relying on raw defense. He does not have type disadvantage to the final phase of Cell Max, and he handles the strength phase, which is the beginning phase, pretty easily. Now a couple of things about Broly, so just to talk about his passive after his EZA. But we are running him on a 200% team. We will be running him with decent linking partners, and we'll be taking a look at how well he handles multiple different situations. Broly's team for Cell Max is not as good as Gogeta's team for Cell Max. Gogeta fits on the superheroes category team, whereas Broly fits on a very good transformation boost movie bosses team, but not one that's got as many advantageous characters or the access to two of the best units for this, being Ultimate Gohan and the Piccolo Power Awakening. So Broly's EZA is pretty decent. Movie bosses or full power category, 170%, greatly raises attack and defense for one turn, which is all very, very good. Key +6 and attack and defense of 150%. with an additional attack and defense of 120%, and launches an additional attack that has a high chance of becoming a super attack when facing only one enemy at the start of the turn. He has an additional attack and defense of 150%, and launches a guaranteed additional super attack when facing two or more enemies at the start of turn. He will transform when conditions are met. He will transform into his full power state starting from the 4th turn of battle, which you've just seen here. And in his full power state, he's pretty good. He has Ki +8, attack and defense of 200%, and launches an additional attack that has a high chance of becoming a super attack. He also has an additional attack of 200% and defense of 100% when facing only one enemy. If he is facing two or more enemies at the start turn, he has 120% instead. He will launch an additional super attack starting from the turn in which he performs his 3rd super attack in battle. Hypothetically, Broly can launch up to 4 super attacks in a turn, and his best build, for me at least, is critical. I do think that is, generally speaking, his best build overall, as it allows you to really maximize the damage on his multiple supers. If you go full critical with just the tiniest amount of additional, you still have a chance for those triple and quadruple super turns, but you're going to do a lot more effective damage that way. Broly in this form will no longer greatly raise attack and defense one turn, which I think is the only real limiting factor on Broly. If they had made him greatly raise attack and defense one turn, I think he would have been on par with Gogeta. Broly is very, very good, but is also very, very similar to Ultimate Gohan in that he requires kind of a lot of, not a lot, but he requires a little bit of RNG to look really, really good. There's situations where he can look absolutely devastating when everything kind of kicks off, or there's situations where he can just look absolutely terrible because he doesn't get a lot of super attacks, and that's where that whole like RNG mechanic kind of lies with a lot of these units. And I think for the most part, Gohan's not as suspect when it comes to this as Broly, on the condition that he gets his 20 key. Broly, on the other hand, can look a little bit lackluster, especially if you don't have dupes in him, or the ability to really manifest a lot from his hidden potential system. Overall though, I do think he's pretty good. I think he could have done with something, even if it was just maybe the ability to proc guard would have also been pretty good. I know it's not something they've ever done before, but I think it would have really helped him out, especially future-proofing his design. Like, he's very good now, or at least the rainbow level is very, very good, but he's not going to be very good, in future, because he's going to be lacking a lot of future-proof mechanisms like dodge, like damage reduction, like guard, and these are going to give him problems. But with that being said, he does still do a decent job in a lot of content, and although Somax isn't necessarily the best content for him, you can still see some pretty good attack stats from Broly, like this here, and you can see some pretty powerful turns from him. Could be a pretty good unit to bring as a floater, I think, for the Somax event, if Movie Boss's transformation boost is really your only choice of how to make the team work. However, I think overall Broly is still really, really solid, and yeah, I think at the end of the day he could be a unit that helps you beat this event, whether it's his ability to help you beat it completely long term. It's going to be difficult to say, but I do think overall a Broly that is rainbow, or a Broly with 2 dupes like mine can still do a decent job overall. So don't really discount him, and don't be too upset. His EZA is still really quite reliable. It's just a little bit more limited than maybe Gogeta's is, but that's okay. Sometimes you just have to accept that EZAs can be a bit of a mixed bag. They can either come out looking great, or they can look a little bit maybe suspect, but I think for the most part his EZA was pretty good. I just think he does lack a little bit of what could continue to make him really future-proof comparatively to like the rest of the units, So yeah, I think for the most part he does look pretty good. His team is nice, 200% lead is good, and if you have dupes in the end early, you actually have a pretty decent pairing partner for him, so it's not too bad. So I think overall he's pretty good. So here we got him in a situation where this is pretty much the ideal situation for him. If you've got dupes in Broly, he could be the first slot tank, or he's just a great follow-up tank. We've got AGL Golden Freezer, so there's no chance of us dying before Broly gets off his super. And if you can fall below 50% health, then Broly will activate his Berserker, which will also increase his damage quite substantially. So pretty good stuff overall. We're not below 50%, so that doesn't activate, but 7 million is a pretty good showing. Nice high chance to crit on this as well, and the potential to fire up to 4 super attacks. Now 4 super attacks would be quite big for Broly. Here you can see up to 7.3 million, pretty good. Hopefully you get the other super attack, but yeah, 7.3, 7 million, decent showing, no crits, so that's a little bit of a bummer. 184,000 is a lot. Now if Broly gets a 3rd super at some point, that does drop below quite a bit. It can get to around 100k or below 100k, and that's honestly not bad. When you look at Broly as a unit, that's really not too bad. Like, thinking about Broly and how well he does, it's really a decent amount. Here again, in a very good situation. This time no Broly, no in Broly, but we do have the activation of the support from Janemba. So, well, no, we don't manage to get the support activation from Janemba, but that's okay. It's just going to be another turn of Broly being able to show us what he's got against some max. Generally speaking, again, Broly's just very dependent. If he gets those 3 super attacks, the damage will be quite significantly dropped. If he gets 4 super attacks, then he could potentially not take that much damage at all. But generally you're relying on 2 supers. Like Broly is not really a unit that gets more than 2 supers. Here's him getting 1 super and he gets hit for 250k. So is Broly good for some max? Not necessarily, but he is reliable-ish enough, I would say, to bring as a floater for damage. Damage is good, his defense, you can tank 1 or 2 attacks without letting you die. So yeah, that's good for me.